Ladies and gents. Oh, man, the eve before Good Friday. Yes. Today would be the last day in principle, and I will need to let you know, and to all Platinum members as well, tomorrow the stock markets will all be closed. We do have news announcements coming out, which is the core price index, but Forex fundamentally will still be open. Cryptocurrency will still be open, but it's going to be very, very light in terms of volume tomorrow, so that everyone is celebrating Good Friday. So today, realistically, is the last day where all of the volume that can hit the marketplace can happen today. And we've got a new monthly candle coming into action over the weekend. So that's going to be a big one for Bitcoin and the gang of cryptos that are in the hemisphere of cryptocurrency. Shut up, Tino. What is good, ladies and gentlemen? It's good to be here. So, Sam Bankman-Fried, yes. Word on the street is his solicitors, lawyers, aluminium, I ain't getting into it. They are calling for Sam Bankman-Fried to have a sentence of around 6.5 years, but the judges, the judges are wanting that 50-year mark. Now, when you look at Sam Bankman-Fried, you just think, oh man, how's he going to survive? What do you think's going to be happening in there? It's a sad story, but then let's just look at the madness and the sadness amongst all the investors in the FTX, you know? But the good thing is things are going up, so the compensation is going to be of benefit to them because everything is going up, you know? So hopefully that gets settled and people at least get some of their monies back. But we're going into a very interesting time right now. I was having a conversation with Mr. Dutch this morning, talking about what makes Bitcoin's price really move. Is it because BlackRock's buying it? MicroStrategy? And I ain't even going to get into this MicroStrategy story because I have a theory. I have a theory about MicroStrategy. And when I get into it, I do want your comments on this because some of you might think, nah, no chance. But I think it could actually happen. I hope it doesn't, but I think it might actually happen. So, getting with the idea of what actually moves Bitcoin. Well, we need to understand, right, that the halving event in cryptocurrency is the biggest thing for Bitcoin, okay? That means miners will only receive half the reward for mining Bitcoin. Now, the pace that Bitcoin is being purchased at is not as fast as the way the miners can get it out, okay? Like, we got this ETF and BlackRock's like, yo, yes, please, we would like that. We will take that and that. I'm telling you, they are going to get first dibs on the government's holdings of Bitcoin, and we are going to hear about it. You will then come back here and say, I did say it. It's only right, because if we've got this issue of supply, especially with Coinbase's supply of Bitcoin at significant lows, something around 344,000 Bitcoin left on their books, and we know Coinbase will be facilitating purchases for BlackRock as it is the intermediary per se for BlackRock. Because remember, when they buy the ETF, it happens in two instances. For example, you might have Fidelity that will get the purchase done at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard, and then BlackRock will get theirs done at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard, okay? Then that gets chucked into the ETF trust, and then happy days, the Bitcoin is sat in there waiting, and then, of course, hopefully, Bitcoin's price goes up. But what makes it really go up? And ultimately, it's down to the miners. Okay, because if the miners are effectively mining the supply of Bitcoin to be available, then whatever happens outside of Bitcoin or outside of cryptocurrency, okay, whatever coins that have been mined, that's just moving from one person to the next. It doesn't necessarily change the impact of Bitcoin. So what makes it move? You know, we know that it's the miners that are going to be the leading factor to Bitcoin's price moving. And we have seen that the miners are effectively selling because the halving event means that whatever they're mining right now, they are going to be getting a set amount for it. But the halving event comes, it's going to get slashed in half again. So they're at this thing where, do we hold the existing Bitcoin that we mine, or do we release it out and sell whatever Bitcoin we have just so we can effectively create and meet to the demand of our operating costs. That's what's going on through miners' heads right now, okay? But like we said before, futures markets are the reason why Bitcoin moves up aggressively and comes back down aggressively. Because if people have an idea about Bitcoin, okay, and they think it's going to go higher, well, they're going to go to these exchanges and use leverage, and leverage gets to use more money, all right, with no real money behind it. That's what open interest is. You're borrowing money from an exchange with the anticipation that you think prices are going to go higher. You put down $100 at 100x, you're effectively borrowing 100x the value of whatever it is your marginal amount. So, okay, so that means that some person is representing a certain amount of Bitcoin that's out of thin air in terms of leverage positions. So when you see millions of dollars of liquidations coming into play, you know, remember, those were millions of dollars that had come into the marketplace and the market maker effectively providing that liquidity. That naturally makes people think, oh my God, Bitcoin's going to be going up because look at the volume on the futures markets. There's activity. I'm buying my Bitcoin. But the supply stays the same. So what makes Bitcoin's price go up? That's why in my brain, I don't really have... I'm only interested in movement, all right? We can say Bitcoin to a certain figure, but does that figure truly represent the idea of value of Bitcoin? Does it? No, it doesn't. Bitcoin right now is at the value of $70,840 a coin. That's right now. In a second, it's now at $70,820. So what's the value of Bitcoin? It will forever be changing, so we can safely assume that Bitcoin has no value unless, or the person that's prepared to pay for it at that point in time. So as long as people are continuously buying and selling Bitcoin, there will always be this equilibrium of, not so much equilibrium, but there will always be this thing that, what's the true value of Bitcoin? You know, it should be 100K. Well, that's irrelevant to me. You know, that means someone's prepared to buy it at 100, but also people are prepared to sell it at 100. So what's the value of Bitcoin? They call it the store of value, but it changes in value continuously. What is the value of Bitcoin? You know, whatever the value it is to you is going to be different to someone else. Someone that thinks Bitcoin at 100K is going to be a perfect place to stop, or should I say sell, that's where they think value is at. They will sell it at that point. But that could also mean that someone is prepared to buy it at that point because Michael Saylor says, do not get rid of your Bitcoin. In today's live stream, we're going to pay attention to what's going on with Bitcoin at the possibility of some movement to the upside because it is principally the last day of volume trading. When I say that, I mean that the markets will effectively be closed tomorrow. The conventional markets, institutional fund managers, hedge fund managers, insurance pools, they're all going to be going off chilling to celebrate Good Friday, okay? So we're going to break that all down. Then we're going to dive into this story with Sam Bankman-Fried on what could lead to some volatility, okay? Cool. Now, let me just get my glasses on right now. Sam! Listen, Sam is my brother-in-law, but he is also my butler. He has one job, and that's to make sure that these glasses are clean, all right? They're not clean. I'm really upset because now I'm going to see smears in front of me. Anyways, no, bless him. He's a good kid. He is a good kid. He is my butler, but he is a good kid. I call him my butler and put it in the chat. 47% of you in this chat right now say that you are, here we go. 47% of you have liked. 17% of you subscribed. So mad love for that. Thank you very much. God bless you all. And 36% of you have selected that you've got a butler called Sam. Well, if you would like a butler called Sam, I'll let him reach out to you. He's really good, but he can't polish glasses. So that's a bit of a waste of time. So yeah, I'll be taking his Bitcoin and selling it. Your butler's name is Cedric. Awesome. Yeah, I am. You know what? I am. Tino, can we get a beard trim tutorial? A beard trim tutorial, bro. I use cutthroats. All right. I do not use those Gillette Save blades. Nah, bro. No chance. I'm about the cutthroat. You know, I'm there. I don't use shaving foam. None of that. That's alcohol. How? No. You use a cutthroat, dry, bang, clip, 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 finish. That's how I grew myself. I'm going to stop talking right now. Let's get into some flavor today, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Oh, no. Do you remember those good old days, ladies and gentlemen, when it was just the voice? And it would always start off with, yo, yo, yo. What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Well, you've got my face right now, and I'm sorry about that. Sam Bankman-Fried, disgraced crypto king to be sentenced today. Now, this is where we're talking about how his legal team called for leniency, but prosecutors are seeking 40 to 50 years in prison. They are calling it, back in the day, the medieval view of punishment, by insisting on a lengthy term behind bars for a non-violent first-time criminal. Like, come on, think about it. They only want 6.5 years, and this guy is getting a medieval-like way of punishment. Maybe Sam Bankman-Fried is the scapegoat in the sense where all these other exchanges, if they try and pull some of this flavor like what Sam Bankman-Fried has done, then these guys are going to be experiencing these hefty jail sentences, like the guy in Turkey, and of course, the guy who fled the scene to Nigeria, the Binance executive. He ain't stupid. He actually managed to get away. But how long is that going to last for? I mean, look at good old Luna guy, Doc One, whatever his name was, okay? He's, oh God, it's all madness. But isn't it wild how the people in these exchanges, look how old they are. You know? It's just wild. My left bollock looks older than Sam Bankman-Fried. Like, I don't understand it. Excuse my French, but that's the truth. You know? He's just come out of puberty. He's just finalized and finished up puberty. Now he's running an exchange with billions of dollars of people's hard-earned money. And now he's just in a prison cell. So, yeah. And here's one of the victims. You know? I would appreciate if this was Sam Bankman-Fried. He has something about him, some substance. Like, he's been in the game for a while, but bruv, come on, man. Oh, man, you would always ask yourself, I'm going to be a bit reluctant to give this guy my money, given that he never dresses for the occasion, can't take him seriously, always wearing tracksuits, bizarre features. I don't know. It's just, but people have that thing about the feeling of missing out, okay? And that's an example of what this gentleman has as well. He's lost his wealth in the whole thing. Sunil faces a long and uncertain wait to retrieve any of his investment. Look, lots of money was spent on this, man, you know? So that's something that we really need to take into consideration. But something that's been happening in cryptocurrency that not many people are paying attention to. The US Treasury notes have been tokenized on public blockchains. The US Treasury market, all right? So to put things into perspective, the market cap is around 127 trillion. Remember back when I said that cryptocurrency will get to the position where the market cap is going to be in line with the same as Forex, $6.5 to $7 trillion turnover per day. It's $127 trillion market cap for the Treasury notes. Now they've been tokenized. Oh my days. Very interesting thing. The market value of the Treasury notes tokenized through public blockchains like Ethereum, Polygon, and all that stuff has crossed over $1 billion for the first time, okay? Now, the tokenized treasuries are digital representations of US government bonds that can be traded as tokens on the blockchain, okay? Now, why is this really good for us? Well, let me just demonstrate something to you. This is Bitcoin on the futures markets, perpetuals, Binance, Coinbase, Femex, Crypto.com, all these subpar exchanges. No discredit to them. What I'm trying to say to you is these are just exchanges for the retail guy to come in. If you really want to know what the flavor is with Bitcoin in terms of the futures markets, you look at Bitcoin futures. Why? CME futures are very important. CME futures are a representation of the legislation behind trading. We know who's trading it. We know who's buying. Well, not necessarily know, but we can identify the presence of big buyers and sellers based on the number of contracts that they are purchasing with Bitcoin. For example, if I go over to Bitcoin on Binance right now, I can go over and have a look here, and I can see the order flow. Who would that be? Hello? Hello? Yes. Long time. Yeah. Okay, end of the month. I get it. Yeah. How you been, Steve? I'm good, man. I'm good. What you got for me? Okay. Yes, I'm telling them now. Right. Really? Okay. 71, 150. Yeah, well, that's not too far away. I get that. Okay, then that's fine. So what about... Hello? Don't know, just put the phone down on me. Sorry, that was Steve. Steve hasn't checked in with us for quite some time. Steve is a market maker friend of mine, and he calls me only whenever I have the book map up. Like, he's talking about 71, 150, and just before I was going to ask the question, like, is that where it's going? He put the phone down on me. Not really helpful now, but I will be catching up with this guy. It's been a long time since I spoke to Steve. But anyways, what I've got to say to you about the CME futures and Binance futures is this. Right now, we can see there's 103 Bitcoin orders above here, okay? And you got 116 orders at the top right there. So that tells me that there are people coming into Bitcoin to sell, which would naturally lead Bitcoin's price to go higher, all right? So we've just got to make that assumption and say, okay, that means someone's committed to do that. Who is that? Well, we don't know who it is. We really don't know who it is. That could be some dude in the Bahamas, sat with the Cohiba. He's going to get ready to go out for a night, and he's placed an order in Binance. Fine. Who else could it be? Well, it could be an entity or a hedge fund. We don't know who it could be. But when we go over to the futures markets in the CME, we know that there are specific players that play the futures markets. We know it's made up of institutional funds, hedge funds, you name it, insurance companies, pools of liquidity, wealth funds, you name it. And we know that they are really the main participants in the futures markets, okay? They get different pricing. They're not going to go over to Binance and start playing and use the funding rates on Binance. No, not at all. Okay, they're going over to the CME where there are certain rules in place that mean that they're allowed to buy as much as they want, they can sell as much as they want, and what have you, within reason, of course, okay? But you get more of an understanding on the true concept of Bitcoin's price in the futures markets than you do with Bitcoin futures on Binance. Why do I make reference to Bitcoin on Binance? Because I'm fundamentally looking for the volatility on how many people are in one zone at one time. You see, the amount of contracts inside of this area here on Bitcoin on the futures markets might not be representing the same amount of contracts on Binance. I would prefer to know that there's someone buying up 50 contracts of Bitcoin at 69,000. I would then say there's more weight to that purchase than there is looking on Binance and seeing a leverage trader or groups of leverage traders representing that amount, okay? Because they're all on leverage. Now, you do get to use leverage in the CME markets, but it's all about the actual type of player. He's really using main capital. Like, you get contracts on the S&P. You see 100-lot traders, like they're buying up the contracts, okay? So that's 100 times, do the math. And that's happening continuously. So what I'm trying to say is that the futures markets give us true representation of where true commitment could be, okay? And that's why a lot of you guys are making reference to gaps in the chart. There's one gap right here, okay? And that gap right there on Bitcoin is nowhere to be found on Binance because Binance has fundamentally more volume being traded on futures markets because it's lots and lots of people. But the CME markets themselves, they don't really have the same amount of volume, but there are bigger players playing it in this environment, okay? So it does help to pay attention to the CME of Bitcoin, very much so. And as long as you're paying attention to it, you can then make the assumption that lots of offers and bids got transacted at this point, or lots of liquidations happened at this point, okay? But what you got to understand is when it comes to the futures markets, especially on Binance, it's all a liquidity game. They're only interested in liquidity. Why? Because it's all open interest. When we go into open interest, let me just pull this up here. When we actually pay attention to who's buying and who's selling, we then get a good idea of where we can expect price to really start making a move from. So look, here we are. We've got two areas right here. The liquidations are somewhat evenly matched to a degree. We've got more long liquidations than we do have short, but the percentage I'd say is even near enough by sake of 100. If we had 350 long liquidations and we only had 110 short liquidations, I would be paying more attention to the longs getting taken or the long liquidations, okay? But right now, we've got this even distribution of longs versus short liquidations. And you can see that most of those short liquidations are made up of 25x traders, okay? Now, we've got long liquidations down here where prices moved away aggressively from it. And unfortunately, someone went long. People were going short at this 68 point, which they ended up paying the price for. Again, someone went short as price was dropping. Again, you don't go short when price drops. You go short as price has been climbing up because gravity usually sends it down, okay? Yeah, we're starting to see a little bit of movement, which I'll be getting into very shortly, okay? So when you come into this, when you're actually using futures markets, just know that people that are trading the futures markets, they're trading in specific environments. There's no legislation or regulation, in my opinion, for the futures markets. They are not going to stop the futures markets if the market goes to the slump. They'll do the same on the CME. Bitcoin CME futures will stop trading if the Dow Jones hypothetically were to collapse 7%. They'll stop trading altogether because that's where the big money goes. That's where all the big players are sat. Futures markets over here, they don't care. That's why you see these wild wicks on certain exchanges going up and down. Like Bitcoin can drop down 15% in a day. Do you understand? If the Dow were to drop 7%, it will be chaos across the board, let alone 15%. They would never allow it. They would never allow the market to drop 15% in one day. Never. Okay? Now, what we got? Oh, Steve was right. 71,500, is it? No? 71,150? Was he right? Did he give us a little bit of a heads up? Oh, not yet. It's not hit it yet. It's not hit it yet, but we're on our way towards it. So what I'm trying to say to you guys is when you're trading Bitcoin, just make sure that you're navigating all the environments, okay? Just so that you're not caught out in the wrong situation, okay? Now, before we continue, so last night we shared some interesting projections, okay? So straight after the New York live, straight after last night's live, I provided a projection for the Platinum members. Now, again, we are coming towards the end of it. So this Sunday, this offer finishes for the Platinum membership. You get 20% off if you use the code BULLRUN, and you get 20% off your first month, okay? Now, hypothetically, you joined yesterday and you used your 20% and you took a trade on this principle, okay? You would have paid for your membership and more, okay? But the logic behind this, we explained it last night, was the NASDAQ and the S&P had aggressively moved to the upside and Bitcoin had come down. And Bitcoin does this all the time, okay? S&P and NASDAQ will climb up, have a great day in the marketplace, awesome. Bitcoin's pulled back. If you go back in the charts and marry up the times when the S&P moves up and Bitcoin is not moving up but goes down, usually Bitcoin follows suit afterwards, okay? And that's what happened last night, which led us to project out Bitcoin making the move to the upside off the 5-minute time frame by understanding the presence of the green and blue vector candles, okay? So we go back into that on the 5-minute time frame. We pull that up, and this is the range that we were in. There you go. It's going to hit that 150 very shortly. Thank you, Steve. It was this area right here. The structure was to see price come up to recover the vector candles up here. Rise, retrace, continuation out, okay? A simple trade like that, the only thing you can do is take the trade. As long as it stays within a certain region, as long as it stays within the parameters, because I said if it breaks beyond this point, no longs. They held the range. They stayed above the 5 and 13 EMA, the 50 EMA cloud. Shift out to the upside, test the daily open, they cleared the range. Happy days. And that was the same on Bitcoin. That was the same on Ethereum. We caught the move on Ethereum as well. Where was that on Ethereum? I believe it was right here. Wait. Ethereum's move was here. We expected up to come down, to come and sweep the move to the upside. They come back into that red vector candle. And the same thing went for Solana as well. Where was it? Projecting out Solana to move up. And they effectively gave us that flavor to the upside, okay, from that move higher there. But now she's coming back up, okay? So everything's moving back up. Steve has helped us out, and he's given us some flavor, some move to the upside. News today came out saying that the final GDP and unemployment claims came in lower, yet again, lower. Knew that was going to be the case. It was always going to be the case to move in lower. But with that being said, today we do have the pending home sales, which is very important. They're projecting it to be going up to 1.4%. And if pending home sales does show an increase, then that means money is circulating economically around the US. People are buying homes. Mortgages are being given out, even though interest rates are very high, with the scope for them to come down. It's just we really need to see inflation come down. And tomorrow's core price index could be a deciding factor for that. If the core price index does come in lower, that's good news for the Fed. That really is. And then now what you can see is they're not really too fussed about unemployment claims because the unemployment rate is at significant lows anyway. And it's not where they want it to be. They wanted it to be around the 6% to really justify cutting the interest rates. But they've seen that the stubbornness of the employment market is there. Now they're just going to be paying attention to things like pending home sales, the actual core price index, which are going to be the contributing factors to why inflation could go up. But one thing that we need to pay close attention to is oil. Oil. Oil hits the target again. Oil has just been bringing that flavor. No, it hasn't hit the target yet. It hasn't hit the target yet. It actually made a really big move. No, it has. No, depends on how you see it. Anyways, but oil's going up. That's a problem. Like I said to you yesterday, be mindful when oil starts to pump. That's when we're going to have a little bit of a problem moving forward, okay? So Bitcoin making this nice little move to the upside, ladies and gentlemen, just understanding where we are in terms of the bids and the offers. Bids came in last night, of course, from this New York session itself. Now we've got a lot of offers coming into play. We had 25 million transacted at an initial amount of 21, which says at 71,300, there's interest in this zone. The logic would say that we would expect Bitcoin to try and surpass that. If we do get the same behavior as we did yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, remember, today is really the only day for Bitcoin's monthly candle to really come and finish strong. Look, this is where we are on Bitcoin's monthly candle. Not bad, ladies and gentlemen. Not bloody bad. But just be mindful. There is this smelly area right here. That green vector candle. Like I said, if Bitcoin is going to break down from a holder's perspective, it has to stay above 59,253. That's your range. Your price range for a holder is between 73 and 59. That's the truth. All right. Whatever it does inside of this range, to assume the consistency of accumulation, right? Even if the start of the next month brings price back down, solar eclipse and all of that stuff, all right, we would expect Bitcoin to continue back up only because of what's going on with the FTC, with the ETF and the accumulation. These guys ain't stopping when it comes to picking up the ETF itself. Back up to 17 billion. Last night came down to 16 billion. They're not going to stop, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the truth. Okay, and then when we get to the point where the miners, in principle, don't meet to the demand, then we're going to have ourselves a bit of a problem. Okay, looking at miners withdrawing transactions, talking about it today, we can see their withdrawing transactions are actually they're not really they're quite low today. Okay, and it indicates how often miners send their coins to affiliated miner wallets. Okay. So number of withdrawals from affiliated miners' wallets. Well, that has actually reduced. So they may not be withdrawing their coin right now to exchanges to seek liquidity. We can only justify that by the miners position index. Are they selling or are they holding in principle? All right, so we'll wait for that to just load up for a split second there. Bitcoin's moving up. Okay, 71,260, happy days. There we are. So we are seeing a bit of selling happening by the miners, but not as much as we saw the previous days. And there's a reduction in the amount of selling happening by miners. That could be suggestive of the halving event. Go back into BTC. Quickly go over to the 1 hour time frame. We're seeing the movement. There you go. 71,200 has come into play. Bitcoin's delivering the flavor to the upside, ladies and gentlemen. And we got some big offers coming into the chart right now. Here we go. Look at that flavor right there. Thank you very much, Steve. That was very helpful of you, sir. Nice move right there. So, offers, top side. Look here. You can see now the offers are coming in. And, sorry, bids are cut. This is something you want to be paying attention to if you use the book map. When you see price moving up and then all of a sudden you see bids coming into play, those are guys coming in, loading up at the lowest point possible at the highest range, quickly getting some more bids because they know that the traction and the behavior of volume coming in right now is suggestive of offers. That means there's a seller's market. That's Bitcoin going up, okay? And if you don't understand that, what I mean by that is when you're bidding, you're buying. When you're offering, you're selling, okay? But that's only if you're a bid or an offer, okay? And that's what happens. The only way that a bid can actually come into play is if someone sells, okay? And there's your green vector candle recovery to the move to the upside. That is wonderful. They're eating up the liquidity. There are potential for Bitcoin to maybe hit the all-time high today. Could be on the cards if, and I say if, we get a strong move away from the 72 zone, okay? Because they like to sell from this point, and we only know that because over here, we had some big bad boys selling at 71,500, which they are about to surpass. $31 million of a position was traded at that 71,500 when originally it was 14. Tells me that people are interested to offload in this range. So we got to be very careful because if they're offloading at this point, then that would then suggest that the market will then reverse and come back down into the bids to load up again. Because there was an influx of people looking to sell and the market's like, whoa, okay, hold on. We need to regulate the market and come back a bit. That's logic up behind of what a vector candle is. Right now, the market maker is making a run towards the liquidation points for the short sellers. Look what's going on. Look. We've got someone going long, 71,376. Now look at how long it's going to take before market maker makes those guys pay the price. We go into the 5-minute chart. Let's have a look. We've just had a... So this is what you got to do when it comes to your trading. You get the clues with the vectors, all right? When you see this big bout of volume coming into play, when you see this red vector candle and price stabilizes, stop and volume candle at the 50 EMA, you then say to yourself, well, if I'm going to assume that it's going to go up to recover this candlestick fully, I'm going to take a trade on this logic. I'm going to place a trade here, and I'm going to set my stop outside of where the manipulation is. Now, you could have been at this point right here. You could have been at this point right here. The idea is that you would have been looking for this move. You would have got this move, okay? Pay yourself. As a trader, that is. Pay yourself. Now look what's happened. All the dudes that just went long now are going to pay the price because they went long at the wrong place. But this candlestick right here is giving us another clue. It's on the 5-minute time frame. This candle could suggest that they're quickly taking some profits, loading up on the bids to prepare to try and climb back up again. So we're going to wait for that narrative to come into play. How do we justify that narrative? We go into the book. And we then say to ourselves, okay, then what do we have here? We've got price coming back down to the VWAP. Okay, so we got ourselves behavior at the VWAP. There's activity at the VWAP. So, how do we know that you're not in bed with the market maker? Well, what do you mean by in the bed? What do you mean? I bet you Steve is Sam, his brother-in-law. No. No. Sam is not my... No. Sam is not Steve. Shut up, man. Sam is not Steve. Steve and Sam are two... I mean, look at that. Wow. Look at that red vector. It's just turned into a vector. Gone down. All those guys that just went long. Like, shit. Would Bitcoin go to 72K? Yeah, look, market makers are helping the movement to grab liquidity. They don't really manipulate prices. Now, listen, the term manipulate is something that we associate with the way price goes from one point to the next in such a fast fashion. To simplify it, this looks like a manipulative play. Why? Because look, he went long. He went long. He is now liquidated. That's why we associate it with manipulation. That's why we say it's a manipulative move, because they gave the idea it was going up. But as the hybrid system traders that you are, you'll know that these green vector candles represent the possibility of a reversal. So this is where you wait after a move up. If you haven't profited from the move up, okay, and you're looking for an entry now, not yet, because they've just swept the liquidity lower. So that means there's a run for those margins. Granted, the market is open, but we do have a different market because of the difference in time. So I'm expecting Bitcoin to actually continue with this manipulative play because everyone's just ran in because Bitcoin's going up. And then once the news comes out, the pending home sales, the market will have its own free roam to do whatever it likes after the news announcements. So this is a manipulative move, but the market maker is not out to manipulate you. It's catch 22, man. That's the look. This is what I need to convey. We assume market makers manipulate the price, but they really don't. All they do is just associate liquidity from one point to the next. They say, okay, there's lots of guys want to place orders over here. Our job is to make sure that we are fulfilling that obligation as the obligation to the exchange that we are in partnership with to make sure that we keep their clients happy because we earn off the transactions, okay? But the way they move price can be seen as somewhat manipulative. A minute ago, Bitcoin was pumping. Now it's all about going down, okay? What else have we got? Please don't do my head in with hybrid system shilling. Well, granted, it is a free system. You don't have to pay anything for it. Try it out. It works. So why are you here, bro? Go back to stochastics. Go. You know? Now, what else have we got? What's the website that shows the asks and the bids, red, green, and red balloons? How many of you are actually new right now? This is the book map. This gives us the order flow. Okay, this tells us where the high concentrations of offers. So by this candlestick right here, we assume the red vector will see a recovery back up. Okay, how much of the recovery is going to be a different story because they could come back up into here to offer out again, to bid again and come down. Okay, so look, it's a 5-minute time frame. And as a scalper myself, this is what I'm looking for because I'm going to play that on the depth of market and scalp that principle. I do it on the S&P, okay, because Bitcoin futures, they've got there's too many wide spreads on the futures market itself. It's not ideal, but Binance is perfect because you pay your funding rate for the liquidity that you're offered, for your leverage, and that's it. You go in at market, for example, or at limit, whatever it is. You're not paying a spread per se. You are effectively paying the fee to borrow that money, okay? That's how they get you, all right? If Binance had a spread and they didn't charge, all right, then you would never scalp Bitcoin. You would all swing it all day long because the spread will be phenomenal on Bitcoin, okay? Now, Tino, can you... What else we got? I know. It's all good. It's all good. Can you show the correlation between ExoCharts, DOM, and the book map? Well, listen, the ExoCharts depth of market is going to be different to book maps per se. It's just the way they present it. And I would rely on Jigsaw book map. I use ExoCharts for the VWAPs, okay, and the value area highs and value area lows, okay? I mean, I've got value area high and low on book map here. You can see this is the session volume profile. Session range volume profile. I can associate that this area here is the value area high. Down below in this area, we can associate it to be the point of control where most of the volume is transacted at, all right? So it's really just for graphical representations, really, that ExoCharts exists. But let me just pull it up for you right now, just to put things into perspective so you understand exactly what we're looking at right now. From an order flows perspective, right? You can see there are people happy to offer out up here. So this is like a wall. So some of you might see that as a wall to sell from, which logic would say, yes, this is where people are buying the Bitcoin, right? Because they're being sold to at that point. Now, if the volume of buyers coming in is going to overwhelm the amount of offers that are coming into that point, the market will naturally continue to go up and trigger out all the other offers that are coming into play, okay? Because you can see above here, you got 42, 23, 93, 28, 54. So that tells me that there is interest to mark prices higher if they can sustain and break away from this. That means there's going to be more people wanting to buy at this point, but there's people selling into them at that same time, okay? So here is the EXO charts concept right here. So you got Bitcoin's price. Wait, let's do that here. So this is where Bitcoin is right now on the 5-day profile. We got Bitcoin on the book map over here, and we got Bitcoin's price over here on the 5-minute time frame. And now we've got Bitcoin over here on the profile. Now, right now, Bitcoin is sat in the value area of the 5-day profile. So this is Bitcoin's profile price range for the last 5 days. So that means 71,881 going all the way down, keep on going all the way down towards 63,881. So that's Bitcoin's range over the last 5 days. Now we go and have a look at where Bitcoin's value is at, and you can see its point of control is at 11,000 right here. So they've transacted 11,000 Bitcoin contracts at this point at 70,493. Now what we understand is from that point earlier, they had come back down to that point and rejected it. So that tells me that this is where we can expect bids to come into play to support Bitcoin. So if anyone's going to buy Bitcoin on the cheap, they're going to be buying it here because that's where they believe, that's where they want to get a good price feel from. But the way we can see value changing is by looking at the volume profile over here, and you can see that it's got, let me just change the colors of it so that you guys can see exactly what I'm doing here. Let me change the colors. No, not that one. Where is the text color? Oh, come on. Info text color. Is that it? No, never mind. Leave that. You see these numbers here. So you got 8,000 there, 7.2, 8.8. Okay. Ideally, at 70,993, we need to see someone transact another 3,000 contracts to assume the idea of value is going to shift to move up. Okay. If it can't transact at that point, then we would assume that this is still the true point of control. But the more see, like here, you've got here at 70,593, there's 10,000 contracts there. So that tells me that the point of control could change and it could move higher. That would suggest to me that there's support in that point. But the more they transact up here, and there's 8K right here, okay? If that turns to 11, that could be the new point of control, because it means that there's someone there, participants are holding price at this point. So when you have this dialogue with yourself, you say to yourself, okay, if I can assume that there are guys holding price here to effectively lead it higher, then I will make the assumption and say, that's in this point here, that bids are holding out. And when you look closely, you can see here, they're not really pulling that many bids off the book. And when I'm looking at the bid profile, which is this blue area here, I'm seeing consistency in the amount of relatively decent bids that are coming into the market. I've got offers of 118, 126 up here, and I've got this order up here of 176. I'm going to assume at some point they're going to want to sweep to that area, but before they do that, they need to find their balance right here, okay? Because someone's up there saying, right, I could actually sell Bitcoin for 71,493 and get 176 contracts sold, all right? So that could be something that I pay attention to in the order book, right? As the order book starts doing, see that? You see the order book increasing as it's moving up. So people are now placing offers just in case there's a spike up. They're going to want to get that order filled. So they're front running this order thing right here in the hope that this gets filled, so will those, okay? So we go down. We got one here, 97, 96, 95, 104, 115. So someone's got an algorithm running to place and close at that price point. It could be a number of people. It might not be a number of people. It could be just one person. But right now we're going what appears to look like an area of value. So the value area high. So this is the highest point that people can transact Bitcoin at, which is consistent with reversals. Well, we just had that little move to the upside where Bitcoin made the move up towards 71,370. Now we go up to 71,370 on the book, and it shows us that this area here is where they sold from, okay? So that tells me now that in the book that the resistance up here is at 71,370. If price can sustain itself from this range and continue up and break that point, then that would then lead me to believe it's going to eat that 71,493 and then potentially start attacking the higher band of the 5-day profile and start gunning towards that 72. Now what we're doing is paying attention to how it's going to behave here. Notice it's at the VWAP. They're transacting above, below. Look, above the VWAP, below the VWAP, above the VWAP, below the VWAP. Now we're getting higher concentrations of offers at 71,500. So we go into the book and we say 71,500. Do we have that concentration? There, 185.9, 187.51. Okay, so it's always going to be different, but it's relatively there or thereabouts. All right? And this is how I'm looking at the depth of market, even for the S&P, all right? I know that at some point, if the contracts don't come into play in this area, then they're going to come back down to 70,400. I could then make that assumption at this point right now and say, okay, I'll run a short. I'll test it. Where would I be wrong? Well, it needs to get above it into the value area high at 71,156 or even higher. It all depends on your risk tolerance. But if I'm waiting for Bitcoin to go up and I've got the recovery of the vector candle zone right here, then I might say I need to wait and see if they can actually do it because Bitcoin's trading sideways. Why am I going to get myself in a sideways play until I get enough information to suggest it's going to go higher in my favor? There is a potential right now for Bitcoin to change its point of control. And if it does change its points of control and it does increase in value, then happy days. I'm going to assume it's going to continue higher. Let me just change something here. I need to change this because then that then gives me the idea. I can then show you the numbers. Here we go. So let's get the depth of market. I really need to change the color for that. Here we are. Let's get those colors so it looks easy on the eyes, just so I could show you guys. Right, make it purple. I don't even know if you guys can see it. I'm hoping you can see it. There we are. All right. The best color for it. No, that'll be terrible. Let me make it. Here we go. That at least, just so that you guys can see. Okay, so you can see that the transactions are happening, all right? So I removed the short numbers, so I'm seeing individual transactions happening on the depth. Let me tell you something. When you pay enough attention to this, you will start to see an area where it transacts quite significantly, all right? And then you're able to say, all right, looks like there's a lot of sellers happening here, a lot of buyers happening here. And if you're paying attention to it, you'll then start to get a feel for the way the market is behaving, all right? That, in my opinion, is the true edge when you get the feel. And let me know in the comments, how many of you have intuitively traded before? Rather than focusing on structures and what have you, after watching the way the asset moves, or you've been trading it for a long time, how many of you have actually traded intuitively and done well with it? Now, that doesn't mean, today I'm going to go long. I'm talking about sat watching this, paying attention to it, looking at something and just getting a feel for every time it goes down, you see it come straight back up again. You keep saying to yourself, well, what's going on in this area? Why do I keep seeing it? Someone is there planting an order. Look at this. Someone 100 bids there, 75, 45, 65, 52 going down. We got the same amount, okay? We got those offers up here, 187. The logic says it's going to attack that 71,493. And the bids are holding out and loading up as cheaply as possible so that they can then offer out towards the top side. That's what I would associate at this point. The only way that that changes is if Bitcoin just slumps from here. Then I'm then doing the same thing again. And I'm waiting for the next area to reveal itself. Okay, say there is pressure to mark prices down from this point. I need to pay attention to the depth. Have a look at it. And inside of the depth, I'm going to know if it's going to become a vector candle and I can see the imbalance. So that tells me, oh, wow, lots of bids have just been swept. Wow. That tells me some people have been selling. Now there's an imbalance in the profile. I can associate that they're going to try and come back and fill that imbalance. Look, imbalance at the top there, imbalance on the profile right here. So the market's going to move towards those zones. So we just, look, here we go. We're coming back down now. So a minute ago, we wanted to see if that 8,000 was going to hold. Well, they didn't really transact much. And paying attention to the amount of transactions as well. So for example, let me put it into perspective for you so you can see. So let's assume that there's 8,081 orders up here. Inside of that profile, we know that there's 112 bids, okay, and 129 offers, okay? So when price comes back to that point and I start seeing the 112 bids coming into play and that number is increasing, that tells me that people are still looking to bid Bitcoin, so they're probably going to mark it down from that point. But if it goes to the 129 and the offers are coming into play, then that tells me that it increases from 129 to 160. Then I know that there's offers coming in, so that could suggest price is going to go higher because they want to sell it. Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? And this is what I mean about Bitcoin. You can get a feel for the way it moves because there's a lot of times that it holds. And then you're always asking yourself, how was I able to miss that move? It's paying attention to this behavior. You're effectively dissecting the wicks. You're dissecting the candlestick behavior. You're dissecting the way the market is reacting to the current value of Bitcoin by just paying attention to the number of orders that are coming in, because that's where the orders are. That's the reason. If someone comes in and loads up Bitcoin and puts in 10,000 contracts at this point, you look at the chart and it just shoots up. You'll be like, oh my God, it's a bullish candle. Forget that, bro. Someone just came in and planted an order, and you would have been seeing that happening on the book. And when you see a big order coming in, the book freezes for like 2 seconds and you see the numbers transacting. It does it on the S&P, all right? Usually around 8 o'clock at night on the S&P. When it gets towards 8 o'clock, you'll see these orders coming in and the book doesn't freeze, but it stops moving up and down. The orders are getting placed. And you see it's like 2,000-3,000 contracts, and then it starts to make a move. That pause is the difference with you taking a long or a short from that point. And if you see it happening on the offer side, you can then assume that it's going to continue up because someone's just planted an offer of 3,000 contracts. Are you mad? Do you understand what size that is? That's how we use the book. So let's make this assumption right now. Bitcoin come back up. We want to pay attention to this 8K region. Here we go. What transactions are going to happen at that point? Here. So right now it's at 8,081. The bids and the offers show bids at 112 and 130 on the offers. So we really need to see. Here we got 142, 112. So what happened at that point? 142, 112. So they missed that point and didn't transact on the bid. So that tells me that the offers were dominating at that point. So it went up to 142 from 123. 23 contracts in principle came in to offer out. That could start a move to the upside. Okay? I'm watching that, paying attention to it and saying, seen. Now we're in at 8,100. Okay, cool. Price is going up. What about that point again? Where is it? Here we go. 118, 143. What am I seeing more of? I'm seeing more of the offers. It says 143 there. When it goes back to that point, I really want to see the offers coming in. That could be a trigger point in the chart to mark prices higher from there. So you might be in a long right now thinking, should I hold my long? Should I hold it? Well, look, we're paying attention to it right now. If you can see it, ladies and gentlemen, just bear with me if you can't. I'm explaining it as it's going in. There's an order right there, 41 on the offer. So that tells me that they might want to get filled on that. That should increase that value right there. Here we go. 8,101. Still 118. Price hasn't gone to it yet. We really need to see the offer coming in, not the bid. We don't want to see the bid. Pulling back. So now we're waiting. Because this could be the difference between you being in a position to close or being in a position to add. You're trying to get an idea if they're going to get ready to gun for the value area high to go to the upside. Here we go. 118, 143. And as you increase the tick size on exo charts, you're going to see bigger numbers, but you're doing fundamentally the same thing. But it's just going to be bigger ticks. That means price has to absorb more contracts before it makes the move. Okay? Now, look, we're just talking about a zone right now. Some of you guys as holders will be like, this is irrelevant. Of course it's irrelevant to you. Here we go. It's now, okay. Here we go. Still the same. 118, 143. This is what I mean about Bitcoin. It takes bloody forever. Right, we're going back into it. Come on. Really needs to take that 70,993. Just below the 71,000. They could be preparing longs right now and getting ready to bid to shift out to the upside. Want to see them clear that 8,000 point because that's the biggest point so far in this range next to the 8,837 down below, which is at 70,693. Oh, here we go. See that little push there, but they still managed to bring it back up again. So this 7,000 contracts could be a bid support. Absolutely. Here we go. So right now we've gone to it. 8,127. Who transacted? Oh, the offers. So they sold off at that point because it went from 143 to 163 now. So some more contracts are coming in, and the bids only came into 123. So from 118 to 123. So that tells me that there's not that much of a demand to bid from that point. There's more of a demand to offer. That tells me that price should be going up. Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? Does that make sense? Is there too much for you? Is this, and listen, if this is too much for you and it's like, whoa, how the hell do I understand this? Just watch the streams, ladies and gentlemen. Believe me, watch the streams. You know, I've got ExoCharts masterclass sessions. There's a course on ExoCharts. It's like $60. It's not breaking bank. Okay, you get a 20% discount on the memberships as well. This is all this stuff is explained in there. Okay, to save you sitting on a live stream for an hour. All right. I just want to really just see if it can do it again. Does that make sense, guys? If it makes sense, happy days. Hardly. No problem. In time, you'll get it. Big gap up on IBIT. Yes, there is a big gap up on IBIT. They are going to make that interesting move on the oh my days. Oh my days. Yeah. Vector candle recovery right there. It's just all over the place. Absolutely all over the place. I just need to look at something. Where is it? Got a gentleman that wants me to look at this. Consumer product, $9. Big movement happening right now on this stock, my friend. Yeah, big volume coming into play. Big volume. So you must be onto something with that. Bad statistics per se, but there's a reason why it's pumped up. But historically, it does that to come down. So just be very mindful of that, my friend. Okay, so back into Bitcoin a second. Are we good with that, ladies and gentlemen? Is it going to do that flavor? Seems to be holding out. But just after this conversation, guys, you've now come to understand how to read that play. All right, I hope that you've come to the charts and said, you know what? I can now make the assumption that when Bitcoin's trading sideways, if I'm using ExoCharts, I'm going to associate that dialogue that we just had to help me understand if Bitcoin's going to go up or down. Okay. And granted, it just stays sideways. And, you know, the news is coming out right now, which is going to be very helpful. Hold on. News should be out. Consumer pending home sales. Here we go. That should bring some volatility right now. Up 1.6%. Consumer sentiment's gone up. Okay. Euro is marking up-ish. Not really seeing the movement on dollar yet. Hold on. Dollar's going down. Okay. Bitcoin fundamentally should be climbing up right now. Where are you, bro? All right, forget it. We'll just do that. 8,151. I'm paying close attention to that. 126 on the bids, 185 on the offers. Okay. Just look how they're holding this point. The more you're watching it, and the attempts to go down and they just bring it back up, collect the bids, go back up. Collect, go back up. Look at how soft the retraces down are in comparison to the moves up. The moves up are more aggressive than the moves down. This is how you're profiling and using intuition to trade the market, by watching the order flow. It's not stochastics this. No, you're missing information. Then you look at it and say, oh, the stochastic was turning upwards. Okay, so that's justified why it's going up. You're missing the information when you're not paying attention to these details. Because all it takes is just one contract to come in. One dude is like, forget it, chuck 400 contracts on that bad boy, split it up across 10 levels, okay? 40, 40, 40, 40, bang. And let's hope that they get filled. Bang, 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 it keeps on getting filled. Okay? I hope that makes sense, ladies and gentlemen. What did you want to say about SPY and MicroStrategy? You know what? I'm going to tell you tonight because it will be something that we need to conversate. There you go. There you go. 8,200. They confirmed that point. 231. 231 offers at that 8,000 point that we've been looking at, and 139 on the bids, 140 now on the bids. Just that profile itself and that logic there would justify someone holding along, taking along. It's that behavior you're looking at, okay? It's not look like it's going up much, but you're profiling the range with the recovery of the red vector candle, justifying the reason why it's going to go up. You just had that dialogue right there, okay? I'm talking about MicroStrategy later on tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to like and subscribe on the way out. Hit the bell so you don't miss out on tonight's live stream. Forgive me if it's been too much of a long live. Take care of yourselves, gang. Mad love. Peace.